Today I'm going to be taking a flight with Loganair over to the island of Barra in the Outer Hebrides. Barra is a really special airport in that it's the only airport in the world where the aircraft actually land on the beach. There are no fixed runways as such, and the runways are washed away twice a day by the tides coming in up and down the beach. This is the second time I've been here to try and get to Barra. The last time I failed miserably as we had a problem with the aircraft and had to divert back here to Glasgow. Hopefully this time it will go a little bit smoother, fingers crossed. Let's head inside and head to Barra with Loganair on the Twin Otter.
There's only one terminal building here at Glasgow, which I always find to be quite efficient. First step today was to the Loganair check-in desk. You can actually check in online for Loganair just like I did, however I found that when I printed out my boarding pass, the QR code to scan for security didn't print out. The check-in agent said quite a few people have had exactly the same problem though. After security it was straight through duty-free to the departure lounge. I headed upstairs to the upper deck lounge. It's quite a spacious lounge and you can get in with priority pass, just like I did today. Check out the link in the description below for a discount code of a membership with priority pass. The lounge here offers some great views over the apron, and we got some great views of the aircraft movements out on the ramp. Here's the aircraft that I'll be flying on later today, heading out for an earlier departure to Campbelltown. After time for a coffee in the lounge, I headed down to the departure gate where my flight was getting ready to go. Loganair use these gates for all of their departures out to the islands. They're down a set of stairs and there don't seem to be any lifts that take you down to the downstairs floor. While this could be a bit of an issue for passengers who need assistance, there are lifts located elsewhere in the departure lounge, and if you have assistance they generally take you down to one of those instead. Today's video is brought to you by Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community for creators, with more than 25,000 classes in design, business and more. I've been using their courses to brush up on my video creation and storytelling skills. I've found them great because I can learn at my own pace and on the go while I'm travelling. I particularly found the iPhone videography course really helpful. I film a lot of my footage on my iPhone, and the course offered me some great tips on how to get movie quality footage out of a device that I have on me all the time. Their premium memberships give you unlimited access, so you can join the classes and communities that are just right for you. Whether you want to fuel your curiosity, creativity or even career, Skillshare is the perfect place to keep you learning and thriving. Skillshare is giving away a free 2-month unlimited access trial to my subscribers who click the link in the description box, and after that it's only around $10 a month. Please do go ahead and check it out. For now though, back to the video, and here's my ride over to Barra, arriving from her previous flight. Our ride today has a long and varied history. At almost 40 years old, it's older than me, being delivered originally to the Norwegian airline Widerøe in January 1980. In 1994 it was sold to Loganair, who originally operated it on behalf of British Airways, then Flybe, before it was finally painted in Loganair's livery in 2018. Loganair operate the Twin Otter on a variety of routes around Western Scotland and the islands. Flying out to Barra today were a range of passengers, mostly returning home or visiting friends. There were a couple of aviation geeks on the flight too, taking advantage of the chance to land on the beach. It was soon time to board. You don't need to present ID on the flights over to Barra, and on the way back there isn't even security.
Oh, I think you've 10th of June. How's that get the 10th of June? That might be better. That's better. You can go now. There you go.
Thank you. Thank you.
Once we arrived at the aircraft, we were welcomed on board by the first officer. The Twin Otter only holds a maximum of 19 passengers, so there's no flight attendant on this flight. The Twin Otter is a little bit of a squeeze, especially if you're quite tall, but it all adds to the fun. Before long, the first officer shut the doors and gave us our safety briefing for our short flight over to Barra.
Ready for review? It's gonna take us about 1 hour to get to Barra. Please enjoy the flight and thank you for your attention.
I just love the great view of the flight deck that you get on these small turboprop airliners. Twin Otters at Glasgow don't push back using a tug, instead they use reverse pitch on the propellers to power back from the stand. Takeoff today was from runway 23, which we reached after a short taxi from the stand. Finally, it was time to get airborne in the Twin Otter. Listen to the incredible sound of these propellers. Off within seconds and began our journey west towards the Outer Hebrides. We headed northwesterly out of Glasgow towards the island of Mull. From there it was towards Col and onwards to Barra, where we landed after a flight time of 52 minutes. Cruising altitude today was 10,000 feet. This aircraft's Norwegian history was still evident in the cabin, with the cabin signage being in Norwegian and English. Of course, there's no moving map in the cabin on such a tiny aircraft, but it was easy to see our progress via the GPS system on the flight deck. I was surprised that such a utilitarian aircraft even has the usual amenities of overhead air vents and individual reading lights. We flew through some heavy rain as we got closer to the Hebrides. Pretty soon we commenced our descent, and the island of Barra became visible in the distance. Here's Barra Airport. Yep, you guessed it, it's the big beach that you can see right in front of us. Coming into land felt more like the Caribbean than the Scottish Islands. Just look at the turquoise water and white sandy beaches. It was finally time to commence our approach and landing to the beach at Barra and tick off a big item on my bucket list. The landing was incredibly soft. It felt similar to the feeling of landing in a seaplane. Once we'd landed, we backtracked and headed towards the small terminal building here at Barra. Of course, there's no jet bridges or even shuttle buses to take you to the terminal, just a short walk across the beach.
Thanks.
The terminal here at Barra is pretty much just a cafe with a check-in desk in the corner. There's a really high-tech solution to baggage handling here, I love it. Bags are brought up the beach in a Land Rover and dropped at this amazing baggage reclaim facility.
Alright, so here at Barra Airport in the beautiful Outer Hebrides, the approach and landing here was amazing. We flew over from Glasgow on this little Twin Otter that you can see just here. We've got a couple of hours here before our flight back to Glasgow this afternoon. I'm just kind of hang around and watch this flight take off before I go and have a wander around and see what there is to do here.
Aircraft here have a 20-minute turnaround before heading back to Glasgow. I waited to watch the flight take off back to Glasgow, leaving me here on the island.
Right, so the flight has taken off back to Glasgow, leaving me here on the island of Barra. I've got a couple of hours, so I'm not entirely sure what there is here. I mean, just looking around, it's kind of not a lot here, as to be expected for a Hebridean island. But there's a little footpath that goes this way, so I'm going to go and see what is up there. I mean, just wow, look at this. If you didn't know that you were in the Outer Hebrides of Scotland, you'd probably look at that beach just there and think you're in the Caribbean or somewhere. Turquoise blue water, white sandy beaches. But we're not, we're on the island of Barra because right over there is the airport out in the bay. Unbelievable. This country is actually one of the most beautiful places in the world when the weather's nice, I think. Anyway, you get to see just amazing things like this. When the weather's sunny, this is absolutely stunning, but I can imagine it's really grim on a rainy cloud day. Out there is the Atlantic Ocean. Next up from here is Newfoundland in Canada, way over there, like thousands of miles away. For me, Scotland has always held a really special place in my heart. It is just the most beautiful part of the UK. It's just somewhere I love to come, and the fact that Barra has such a fantastic little airport as well makes it all the better. So despite being entirely on this beach here, there are actually 3 runways marked out here at Barra, albeit marked out by these little orange markers that you can see here. There are some here, there's one over there, and there's some out in the bay as well to mark aircraft coming in the other way so that pilots know where the runways are. You can't put markers out there on the beach because it would just get washed away with the tide every day, so they just use these wooden markers here so that pilots know where they're coming. Other problem is flights coming in and out at night. Most of the time there's only flights here in the daytime around when the tides are out. Loganair only have 2 flights a day max coming into here. Sometimes they come in together, sometimes they don't come in at all to do with when the tide comes in and out. At night time, of course, is a different matter because you're not going to get any runway lights out there. The only aircraft that really tend to come here, I think, at night time are the air ambulance aircraft that come. People take ill 24/7 and need to get back to the mainland. What they do then is send a Land Rover down to the end of the runway, the Land Rover turns on its headlights, and the headlights on the Land Rover become the runway lights for the inbound landing aircraft. Really cool, and a completely different way of working to anywhere else in the world, really. Barra is the only commercial airport in the entire world that is built on a beach like this, and it's really interesting to see how aviation is such a lifeline to people out here in these remote parts of Scotland.
I saw a few of these furry caterpillar things here. They were everywhere. After a couple of hours wandering around, I went to the airport cafe to get some lunch. The airport seems to be a meeting place for the whole of the island, and the food was delicious though. I took a cheese and haggis toastie while I waited for my flight. There isn't really anything here in the terminal other than a single check-in desk and a security point, which actually isn't a security point at all, it's just the doors through to the aircraft. My 4G signal here on Barra seemed absolutely amazing, so I decided to do a speed test and see just how fast it went. Astonishingly, I got 115 meg download speed over my 4G signal. That's more than I get through my fibre at home. After a while I saw an aircraft on final approach to the beach. It could only be on my ride home to Glasgow. Barra has seen quite a few different aircraft types over the years, and I was surprised to see aircraft as big as Short's 360s landing here on the beach in the past. The Shorts served the airline for British Airways a few years ago, however the reliability wasn't the best and they decided to go back to the Twin Otters. Boarding was called, or should I say shouted across the cafe by the lady doing the check-in. Eventually we were called through security, which was actually just a little office, and out to the beach, where we boarded our aircraft back to Glasgow. My ride for the trip back to Glasgow was the very aircraft that had the issues the last time I tried to fly here. It's a Viking Twin Otter. Viking Air brought the licence to manufacture the Twin Otter from de Havilland back in 2005. They've manufactured them with modern avionics and cabin enhancements. This aircraft's owned by Highland and Island Airports and operated by Loganair on their public service routes around Scotland.
Tickets, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
3A, 13 front, left hand side. Just ahead on the edge.
It was delivered brand new to Highland and Island Airports back in 2014. Once on board, it looks for the most part like a regular Twin Otter. Look at the flight deck, however, and it's a different story, with huge screens replacing the panel full of gauges on the older Twin Otter.
Exit. If I have to carry out an emergency landing, we will call brace, brace, brace from the cockpit and use the top of the brace position, which is illustrated on the other side of the card. Underneath the seat there's a pouch and it contains a life jacket. You put the life jacket on over your head, pass the tapes around your waist and tie to your side in a double knot.
Safety briefing complete, it was time to start our engines and head out to one of the runways here at Barra Airport.
Are you okay?
Our route back to Glasgow took a similar path to our outbound flight. We flew overhead Col, Mull and towards the mainland. Flight time on this flight was 54 minutes at a cruising altitude of 9,000 feet. Once again, it was possible to follow the progress of our flight through the instruments on the flight deck. The cloud intensified as we got closer to Glasgow, which resulted in quite a bumpy approach and landing when we eventually got back to Glasgow. We commenced our approach and landing down into Glasgow, which I think it's fair to say not all the passengers seem to be enjoying. We eventually made an approach and landing to runway 23 here at Glasgow. My ride over to Barra and back today cost me £156.18 or $198 US. This works out at a cost per mile of 56 pence, which is pretty pricey, but remember that this is an essential lifeline for the people of Barra. The only alternative is the ferry, which takes almost 5 hours. These flights allow the islanders to connect back to the mainland and make onward connections, as well as bringing in the mail and newspapers every day. I really enjoyed my little day trip to Barra. It really is a unique experience and one of my favourite aviation adventures to date. My only regret is not staying longer on this beautiful island.
Thanks very much. Cheers. See you again. Back here then at Glasgow in Scotland. And would you believe it, the sun's come out as well to welcome us back to the mainland. Fantastic couple of flights over to Barra and back. Lifetime ambition is achieved there to land on the beach at Barra on board the Twin Otter. That was incredible both ways. A little bit bumpy on the way back in. There's some quite looming looking clouds over in that direction over there, and we've just flown right through them. It got a little bit bumpy. We are here safe and sound on time as well. 2 fantastic flights over to Barra and back with Loganair. Let me know what you think to Loganair's Twin Otter service over to Barra down in the comments section below. Is this something that you do for a nice day out? Also let me know what's the craziest approach and landing that you've ever done. All that remains for me to say is thank you for watching, take care, and I'll see you next time here on In Flight Video.